We're midway through pre-season, so we thought it was good time to come back and start our podcast journey for the 24-25 season here at View from the Ninian. Joining me, as always, Ben Price and our roving reporter, Tom Phillips. Ben Price, have you fixed your technical issues?
I think so. I still don't know what went wrong, but apparently I went mute, which I'm sure people will love.
We can hear you now, and that's all that matters. And Tom Phillips is here. We did think to send Tom Phillips on our pre-season tour to Austria, but we got the flights wrong, and he's ended up in Australia. So, Tom, can you hear us down under?
It's good stuff, Ben. Really,
yeah,
really is. Yeah. How long have you been thinking about that for?
It's Wednesday.
It's good stuff. Cracking start to the season.
Well, we had a lot of people asking about your move to Australia. When we did the Neil Warnock show, a couple of people came up to us and said, has Tom gone yet? I think they were hoping more than asking. But we can confirm you have left now, haven't you? You are living in Australia.
I am living in Australia. Yeah, but I'm still taking the pod very seriously, so it's fine.
Yeah, how much pre-season have you watched?
Yeah, I've watched South Melbourne play. That's about it, really.
Great stuff, really. We thought, with the boys going to Austria now, with a few kind of transfers happening and a few rumours doing the round, we thought we'd check in for a middle of pre-season checking to kind of get started, because the season is only really 2 weeks away. Ben, should we start with transfers first? Obviously, Cardiff have been a little bit busy in the transfer window. A couple of players have come in. Chris Willock, Calum Chambers, Chris Willock from QPR, Calum Chambers from Aston Villa. Are you happy with our business so far?
Yeah, I think they're both brilliant signings. Very excited by both. It's exactly what we've needed as well. We needed someone to fill in that sort of Nat Phillips void with a bit of Premier League experience. You bring that in with Chambers, who also offers a bit of versatility with different positions. And then Willock as well, highly rated Championship winger, which is something we've been needing, a bit more direct, someone actually run at players, which we've been crying out for. So far, so good. Got to be excited by it.
Tom, did you think that this summer would give us these caliber of players? Obviously, Willock was a key player for QPR last year, kind of started really well in the Championship. Calum Chambers has dropped down to the Championship for the first time from the Premier League. They feel like a higher caliber of players than we were signing last season, don't they?
Yeah, I was hoping something like this would happen rather than unexpected. I think, especially with the Willock one, when, QPR wanted to keep him, there was offers on the table. They've been trying to hash it out for a couple of months, but he's chosen us. So I think it shows that we're offering something a bit different. Perhaps we're offering more wages and stuff than we are in the past. But it's good that players are choosing to come to us over. It would have been so easy for him to stay in London, stay with QPR, and stay where he'd been. Mm-hmm. But he's chosen to come to us. So it's good that we're obviously making the right noises to these players. And I think Chambers is a real quality signing. He's been at some big clubs. You watch his highlights reel, and he's a decent player. And he's got a point to prove a little bit. He's been floating around Premier League clubs and not really kind of being a mainstay. So I think it's the right type of signing for us, for sure.
Ben, Chris Willock, he's the kind of player we haven't had for a while, is he? He's an out-and-out kind of attacking midfielder who can play all across the front line, play in the 10 position. He's going to run at people. He's going to shoot from distance. It's that bit of quality, really, that's going to help set us apart next year, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he's got the potential to be everything we wanted Josh Bowler to be last year.
Yes.
I think he's going to fill that role perfectly. If he can stay fit, I think that's probably the one slight worry you get with him. But I think you get that with any winger these days. Sort of, they're quite fragile because they're just the way they run. They're prone to picking up knocks. But yeah, he's direct. He can take a set piece. He can score goals. We all knew that last year the biggest issue wasn't we weren't creating enough. Even we could have as many strikes as we want, which weren't creating enough. He comes in and sort of adds assists, adds goals, and it's exactly what you want from players.
And then, Tom, just to round off on the business we've done so far, Calum Chambers, you already talked about the quality he brought, but 200 Premier League appearances, that's no mean feat for a guy who's in his late 20s. But also, the players we've signed, Willock, Chambers, they all have that Arsenal link, which kind of comes back to Aaron Ramsey as well. Are you excited to see that kind of camaraderie build up again between those players? I mean, you've already seen those photos of Ramsey and Chambers when they were together at Arsenal. They seem quite close, but is that another element to the Ramsey deal that he can help bring these players in as well?
Yeah, I think so. Anything like that helps, right? When you've got a new player coming in and you don't know people in the dressing room, it's harder. And it just means that when he comes in, he's not just bringing the quality. He can settle in straight away. He's got people there he knows. He can hit the ground running. And it's great to see. And, I wouldn't be surprised if Ramsey's had to say when that deal's going through, because he's played with him. Someone's probably gone to ask him, like, what do you think of this guy?
Yeah.
And it's a good sign him coming in, and 200 Premier League appearances. That's brilliant. And like, that's the type of thing we need to bring in now. That's the type of player we need alongside what we've already got. I think last season it was all about bringing kind of bodies in. We had a threadbare squad. We're still not like full of depth, but we don't need to be bringing in people for the sake of it anymore. We need to be bringing in the right type of player. And I think Chambers and Willock are both of those.
Then obviously our transfer business isn't done. The Twitter rumor mill has been talking about another player who might be signing early next week. Willock was hinting at it last week. What else do we need though in this squad? We've addressed the defense a little bit, but Willock is talking about another defender. He's talked about bringing in more wingers and more strikers. Is that all we need, or do you think there's other positions we need to look at as well?
I think it's no secret we need a striker. I think that's obviously going to be the main focus, and I think if we spend much money, that's where it's all going to go. But I think sort of a number 8 is still important. I think we need another option in midfield and to clear out a bit of deadwood. I know a lot of people on Twitter were sort of talking about, we've got a lot of bodies there. We've got a lot of bodies there, but how many of them are actually going to play and actually make a difference? It's now time to sort of, like we said, clear out those that were sort of at a certain level and move up and start bringing players in, adding quality to what we've got. Like you said, Ben, sort of adding to what we've got, not just adding bodies. So a midfielder and a striker for me. If we got one of those in each, it's not a bad window, even if we just got 4 players in. Extra bonus.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off there. Tom, we're seeing the rumours doing the rounds now that apparently the midfielder would potentially sign Alex Robertson from Man City. He was at Portsmouth last year. If their fans are anything to go by, they seem to love him and want to keep him, but it sounds like he might be coming to us. Do you know anything about him? I think he's an Australian international.
2 caps. Yeah,
2 caps. So what do you know about him? Have you done any scouting for us?
Yeah, read through his Wikipedia page. That's about it. No, but like, we've had signings like this before. Like Tommy Doyle came in from Man City and it worked a treat. So I always get excited about this type of player. And 2 caps for an international team when you're not playing that much first team football, it's decent. Like, he's clearly got something about him. So I'm happy to see the balance of, you've got the tried and tested Chambers, Willock, and then you bring in an exciting youngster from a team like Man City, and it works nicely in the system. So, I think a player like this, it's not much of a gamble, is it? It's kind of a free hit, a player like this. So it's good to see us going after that type of business, and a club like Man City, if it does happen, trusting us with a player like that.
Yeah.
Speaking of free hits, have you seen his disciplinary record?
No.
23 games, 10 yellow cards.
Get him in. Sign him up.
Get him in.
All about that. As soon as I saw that, I was like, yes, please.
I was also going to say his background is fantastic because he was born in Dundee, but his mother is Peruvian, his father is Australian, and he somehow ended up playing for England. I just think it's an incredible kind of background. I think I have no idea. I assume he spent a lot of time at Man City and Man United as a youth player, so I assume it's linked to that. But he's eligible to represent Australia, Scotland through birth, Peru through his mother, and England because he lived most of his life there as a team. So he's got. I kind of want to see him turn out for Peru at one point if you can wangle that somehow. So I'm really happy about it. Yeah, I want to hear his accent as well. Be like Ben Brereton Diaz's mother. She's got the most mental accent. The other rumour doing around today, Ben, is that there's a number of championship clubs in for Jay Stansfield, who spent last season on loan at Birmingham. I think he scored about 11, 12 goals last year. Great talent, spent a lot of time at Exeter, highly rated at Fulham. Would you be happy with someone like him coming in? He's a kind of striker / winger. He kind of plays a bit different to what we've got.
Yeah, I'd be happy with that. I liked him at Birmingham last year. Looked really busy. When he played against us especially, looked a threat constantly. So, yeah, could do far worse than that. And he sort of stands out for me. You sort of think about his time at Exeter, taking the number 9 that his old man vacated and stuff. Like, it's one of those players I've kept an eye on, and would be very happy if we bought him in because he looks very, very exciting.
Tom, any other rumours you've seen?
No, I haven't seen any rumours. But on the Jay Stansfield one, he's a bit of a shithouse as well, isn't he? He gave it to the Plymouth fans, I think, when he's playing for Birmingham. And again, adds to that like type of character I'd like to see at the club, just on an absolute wind-up. So I'm all for it.
Right, let's move on to the players we don't want to see at the club. It's transfers out. Ben, we released our retained list. I don't think we discussed it earlier in June. It was as expected, wasn't it? Romain Sawyer, Shea Ojo, Rohan Luthra, and Oliver Denham left. All the loanees went back to their clubs. We extended the contracts to people like Jamalu Collins and Fagan Walcott. Made offers to a few players like Raheem Conte, Kieran Evans, Matthew Turner. Cameron Antwi was one of those who's obviously now left. And there's a few under 21 players who we let go as well. No surprises there, was there? It was, thank you and goodbye to a lot of the players, in particular people like Romain Sawyers, who've been great servants over the last few years. But it was time for those players to go, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I think it was more of a surprise that some of the people we offered contracts to, more than those we didn't. But yeah, I think the club are actually spot on clearing out. Sawyer's clearly like lovely, lovely bloke and well thought of around the club. But his legs are gone for Championship football. He needs to sort of take that step down. And I think he was open to admitting that too when he's speaking to fans. Yeah, club's done well. And then sort of, I think a lot of those contracts being offered felt like they were. There's a new rule now, isn't there, that if under 23 players leave, if you offer them a new contract and they turn down the contract and go somewhere else, you're entitled to compensation.
Yeah, I think that's the case of Antwi, isn't it?
Yeah, I think as part of that is they'll offer a deal, and that's just sort of covering them so they can get a bit of money back. So yeah, it's a shame to see Antwi go. He looked promising before his injury happened, but again, it probably makes more sense for him to play more senior football. So good luck to
him. Tom, were you disappointed that Shea Ojo left? So much promise, wasn't there? And he's gone now.
Can't say I was. I think the ones I'm disappointed in are the likes of like Ollie Denham. Not disappointed that he's gone, disappointed didn't come to anything. When he had that Liverpool game in the FA Cup.
He looked fantastic.
It's odd when stuff like this happens, where you have like a player come in like 3 or 4 games, looks decent, looks like the next big thing, and it just doesn't happen. So I think that's the only one I'm like kind of looking at the list going, that's a bit sad that hasn't worked out. But that's about it, really. Like you said, the rest of it was just like business as we expected. There's no shocks there, and it's like, thank you very much for your service, but on to better things for the rest of us.
Ollie Denham has gone to sign a permanent contract with Sligo. Rohan Luthra is training with Derby at the moment. I don't know anything about Romain Sawyers and Shea Ojo. Ojo's been doing a lot of gym work, if you look at his Instagram. Ben, one of the players who got a new contract who seems to be breaking through in pre-season is Malachi Fagan Walcott. It's a strange one. He spent last season on loan at Dunfermline. He came in from Tottenham, but seems to be putting in a good shift in pre-season. It sounds exciting, and it's a good thing that we gave him that contract because he could break through this year, right?
Yeah, he looks like he's ready to. Did well at Dunfermline by all accounts. In a season, I don't think they had a particularly great season, but he looked like he did all right. But yeah, he looks a prospect. You can see why Spurs wanted to keep him, and it was an exciting thing when he came to us. There's real potential there. I'm not sure if it's a case of he'll sit on the bench and sort of in and out of the squad, or he goes on loan, sort of looking at League One, possibly a League One side. But I'd be happy to see him in and around the team if we don't get anyone extra in that sort of defensive area. He seems like he's capable of sort of playing the occasional game there and playing cup games at the very least.
I think so. I think with the players that he's taken on tour, there'll be a few exits and things like that. But it seems like everyone's been given a chance to really prove themselves. You've got people like Eli King who've gone on a tour. You've got even people like Rinamoto who've come back in. They've been taken out on tour ahead of other players, which we'll get to. So it feels like everyone's got a good opportunity to prove themselves. And Tom, we're talking about exits. One of the players who has left, and we've actually got some money for, Abu Adams. I think it's a 500k initial payment, up to 900k with add-ons. Derby have got a player that they really love, that he's got a really good relationship with the fans. Never quite worked out for him here, but in this era of PSR and profit and loss, it's a good one for the balance sheet, isn't it, that we got money for a player that we signed on a free?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's good for us. It's good for him. Good for Derby. It's a player who's done well there. It didn't work out with us, so let him go and let him play somewhere else. I think it's just good for all parties, really. There's clearly a player there. It just didn't work for us. Didn't work in our system. So, yeah, I think it's a tidy bit of business for everyone involved, really.
Yeah, I think it's worked out quite nice. And Ben, Abu Adams is a victim of a really terrible injury when he first came in, and then all the change that happened at the club in the following period, right? He tore his pectoral muscle somehow in a pre-season game, and it just set him back, didn't it?
Yeah, just never got going. It felt like from the moment he sort of got hurt, it felt like a cursed move. Because I think he came in injured as well, didn't he? So he didn't play his first couple of pre-season games. Came in, was it Newport? I think it was Newport where he did the injury.
I think it was Newport.
And like, it's just a complete freak injury that like I think I remember him saying like it's more regularly seen when people have had like car accidents and stuff. So from then on, he never really stood a chance. And then you're coming in, you're playing your first time playing at championship level. It's a big step up because you come from League Two as well. All of that, the club's in disarray. It was just never going to work. He went to, it's worrying that he went to Derby for stability. I think that's a bit of a panicky moment. But look, he's gone there, he's done well, and good luck to him. And we've made some nice money off it as well. So it's win-win-win.
Profit and loss. That's the key words, lads. We're not talking about good transfers anymore. It's profit and loss. That's the main thing. And we're in the era of net spend. Talking about more profit, Tom, the big news this week from the tour, a notable omission from the tour list. Former captain, the most underrated player we've ever had, Scouse legend, Ryan Wintle. It's a strange one, isn't it? I think it kind of feels like it's come out the blue. But when you probably look back at last season, there were probably hints that Wintle and Bullock didn't really see eye to eye. There was him being dropped out of the squad. There was probably some less overt criticism of players hiding in games, particularly the Swansea loss. But that said, Tom, it was still a surprise to see him not included on the tour list and now seemingly open to move. What's your take on the Ryan Wintle debacle?
It's just a bit odd, isn't it? I think his whole tenure at Cardiff has been odd. It's like 1 minute
signed, went out on loan.
Yes, but it's immediately out on loan, which raises questions anyway. Comes back in, looks like a world beater, then does nothing for a while, has the odd performance. And then when you see his name not on the list, you're like, oh, that's a shame. And then you give it a couple of seconds, you kind of go, actually, is it? Yeah. I'm like, is it a shame? I don't really know. It's like, he's a decent footballer. He doesn't really set the world alight. He doesn't really get us going forward. He's fairly dependable without being spectacular. And it's one of those ones that the only reason you'd worry if he went somewhere else is he could do well. But like, that's not a reason to keep him round a squad. And, you know, I trust Bullock in this situation where if he doesn't fancy someone, then let them go. You know, he's a man who he's not scared to like show his opinion and make a decision. So if his decision is to keep him out of the squad, then I'll go along with it. But it's another one of those ones where I'm a bit gutted it hasn't been better than it has been. I don't think it's been disastrous by any means, but it just hasn't really been a fantastic signing. So if he leaves, then I'm not going to lose any sleep over it.
I've got to apologise for something. He's not from Liverpool. He's from Staffordshire. So I'd like to apologise for getting that wrong. Ben, you were going to say something.
Yeah, it's just he's a player that works in the system, isn't he? We've had them in the past. The system that Steve Morrison played, he worked brilliant at, and that's when he played his best. The second we moved away from that, he never really got going again and was very fleeting, sort of hitting, I'd say patches of form, but it'd be the occasional game where he'd look good. It's not right. But clearly has seen enough of him to make a fair decision. We've got to cut people out. We've got to make tough decisions. Good luck to him. It's not like I'm not going to see him go and say, oh, he's shit, he's this, he's that. I think he's been quite good for us at times. He's done a role, stepped in as captain when he's needed to. It's just sometimes when you're sort of in transition, sort of making that next step up, players have got to go that featured regularly. We've seen it in the past with lots of managers. Good luck to him.
I also think when you look at last season, he made 42 appearances overall, 4 assists, a couple of goals, one of them being a penalty against Sheffield Wednesday. There's not that much kind of attacking contribution. And therefore, you know, when you were playing him as a 10 at times, you think, well, maybe he has to deliver more in that sense. Then there were times where he was playing as probably an 8 and covering in that position. And he didn't really do much in that position either. He let the game pass him by a lot. He didn't really contribute much going forward, but he was a solid player, which is probably why he played so much. I do think there's a lot of talk of, you know, him being a bad influence in the dressing room. From what I've been told by someone who's told me 3 things in the past about Cardiff City. 2 of them were right. One was Neil Harris coming in a week before he did. So I trust him with this kind of stuff. He just basically said they don't really get on, Wintle and Bullock. And I think now that we've got a lot of players in that middle, you've got people like Eli King coming back in, you've got people like Joel Colwell pushing through. He's probably the one that we can make some money on because he's got a 2-year contract and there was interest in early in the summer. And it probably solves a problem which is that they don't really see eye to eye. So it makes a lot of sense in that regard. It was just a bit of a surprise, wasn't it? And then the other rumours, Tom, is talk about Mark McGuinness. He's probably him and Perry NG are probably our current most sellable assets in a sense of they've got a lot of experience at this level. They've put in a lot of games at this level. They're probably standout performers when they do play. What's your take on the McGuinness potential transfer, Tom? Would you be happy to see him go, or would you rather we kept him?
I'd rather we kept him, but I completely understand if we did sell him if it was at a decent price. If you're bringing in the likes of Chambers, then great. But I still think we haven't got enough people in that position to let people go yet. I'd be glad to see him leave because he's clearly, for his age, he's a leader, and he's someone who's got he's still got further development to go as well. We haven't seen the full McGuinness yet. So, like, I would be gutted to see him go from like a playing level, but like from a financial point of view, the old net spend, the profit and loss that you mentioned earlier on, I'm on board. It does make sense, but I think he's clearly a cracking player, so I'd like to see him stick around for a little bit longer because I think we're building a nice little squad here, and I think he'd be a massive part of it.
Ben, would you like to see Martin McGuinness stick around?
Martin McGuinness.
If you did it again, was that intentional? That was intentional.
That was intentional. Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Okay.
I was going to say shit. No comments. Yeah. It's a weird one, isn't it? I think if we got the right fee for him, I think we need more than the rumoured 5 mil for him. I think definitely need that. If that's all we can get, then he's definitely worth keeping. Because I still think he's a future Cardiff City captain if we stayed around. Mm-hmm. But if you get closer to 7-8 million for him as a starting point, I think you've got to sell him just because that can open up and do so much more for the club. It's a difficult decision either way. Like, there's no real sort of out and out, I'm desperate to sell him, desperate to keep him. It's got to be the right deal for the club. If we can strike the right deal, he's more than capable of playing Premier League. I think he's a really, really good player. And for his age, like Tom said, shows leadership well above his age. It's a tough one, isn't it? It's a difficult decision the club's got to really weigh up because, like Tom said, there's not enough depth there right now. So we'll see where it comes from. But at the moment, I'm leaning more towards selling if the money's right.
Quick pop quiz question. Mark McGuinness's father and brother have represented England in what sport?
Ooh. Bowls.
You've nailed it, Ben. How have you done that?
I don't know why. It was in my head. Yeah, lawn bowls. I don't know why, but I remember reading that on it. It's on his Wikipedia, isn't it?
On his Wikipedia page. John McGuinness is his father, representing England in lawn bowls, Commonwealth Games, silver medalist in 2014.
What useless information. That's in my head. And there's something really important in my life that I've forgotten just to remember that.
There's nothing more important than that, mate. You need that Mark McGuinness pop quiz knowledge. Talking about other players who might leave, looking at the list that we've taken out to Austria on the tour, there's a lot of bloody midfielders on there, Ben. Who do you expect to see leave? Rinamota's come back in. Could he be the one that goes? Do you expect to see someone like Joel Colwell make a loan move somewhere? What do you think will happen?
I think Rinamota's definitely going to go. I think he's playing just to put himself in the shop window a bit. And then possibly if there's anyone of the youngsters to go out on loan, it probably is Joel Colwell, just because I think he looks like he needs proper experience playing football regularly, especially in the position he plays. He looks like he's like that out-and-out number 8. Give him a year in League 2 or League 1 and watch him just shine, because I want to see Eli King involved in the first team this year. Every club he's been at, they've loved him. It's time for him to make that step up and really have a go. So, I think that is the case of, it is going to have to be Joel Colwell goes out. I'm trying to think who else. There are a lot on there, a lot of midfielders.
There's 10, I think I counted, there's 10 midfielders on there. If you include Willock and Calum O'Dowda.
It sounds weird, but you look at the squad and where everyone is, would you be surprised to see Turnbull moved on if an offer came in for him? Because
I don't think yet, but I know what you mean. Nah. I don't think yet, because we spent a lot of money on him in January. I think he's got to have this season really to implement himself in the new system. But I do know
it's just if they're trying to kill, they're trying to cut down numbers in midfield. Seems a bit extreme, doesn't it? That avenue, bang. But it's sort of, I can't see, you're not going to sell Rolls, you're not going to sell Ramsey. Maybe Siopis if an offer came in, but it seems like he's happy to stay now. Bullets around.
He seems to be having a nice time in Austria.
He looks hard work, doesn't he?
I think I'd have to have a day off from him. I'd just be like, not today, not today, CEO. I've had enough of you at the moment. You're great, but I'm tired.
The hardest bit of preseason for any player, I think, would be rooming with Siopis.
I
think
assume
that
you're
would be
rooting for
just
Gustas because they know each other. Tom, who would you see go out on loan or even sell at this stage? We've got a lot of youth players on. Do you expect Joel Baggin to be around at the start of the season? Could you see, Capacchio's broken through in pre-season? Do you expect him to be around, or could you see him go out on loan?
I'd like to see him stay around a bit longer, to be honest with you. He looked really good in that Panabonk game. I think it's Baggin. I think I've said this last season. I just don't think he's good enough for us. I wouldn't be surprised if he went somewhere else. But when you look at that midfield and there's 10 players, I think there, like you're saying earlier on, there's no obvious one to get rid of. So I think there's going to have to be tough calls. And I think it'd be really interesting. I think we'd be able to read a lot into what our kind of goal is this season by who we do let go and who we do keep. Because there are people that we could sell for a bit of money in there, but it depends if we want to keep them around or not. Are we simply trying to finish mid-table, or are we trying to go for a playoff push or further up the table? So it'd be interesting to see what to do, because I look at that list and I'm really struggling to work out. I get too emotionally attached to players, so I don't like making the call anyway. I could never work in football. I couldn't do it. But I really don't know. We're going to need to cut it down, but I can't put my finger on who it's going to be.
Yeah, I think, frankly, when you look at the decision he's made with Wintle, it feels like that kind of decision, doesn't it? It's one that's driven purely by there's some money we can get for this player here who probably won't fit in the way we're going to play. If he is, if we are going to play for a better 8 or a better 10 or a better 4, like CO's always going to be the 4, Ramsey in theory is going to be the 10, Riles will be the 8. That's the starting lineup. Wintle doesn't fit. So it makes perfect sense. It's a completely pragmatic decision to go, we don't necessarily see eye to eye. It's time to get rid of him and get some money for him. While other players, you're right, Tom. Eli King is one that is a bit of a gut wrencher in a sense, because I'd love to see Eli King stick around. But if he's 5th or 6th choice, just by virtue of how many midfielders we have, will he want to stick around, or will he go out on loan somewhere? It's really tough. That's why I don't play Football Manager.
Colwell as well. It'd be interesting to see if we hold our nerve if someone comes in for Ruben Colwell this year.
Yeah.
Do we keep him around, or do we sell him to someone like Southampton? Will he end up going? I think it's those types of decisions over the next month or so, which would be a real indicator of what we want to get from this season.
Yeah, I don't think we're in the position to hold on to of any player. If a bid comes in and the club think it's right, they're gonna sell. No one, we're always going to be every club's a selling club apart from Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Man City. Everyone else, if the right offer comes in for the right player, you're gonna sell. I watched the video, the numbers behind the net on YouTube, talk about the 200 million City have spent the last 10 years.
I haven't watched that.
It's really good, really interesting. You sort of look at it and you go, the club themselves have admitted, and we haven't spent massive amounts on players apart from the Premier League year. They've sort of written off 31 million pounds worth of value in players, sort of showing the oversell. The club's not in a place where, and we're still top half, sort of financially run, sort of. It's mad state of the championship, but the club's not in a place where they can really hold out the nerve. I think any team comes in with a sizable bid that sort of hits where they want, you're going to have to sell, as sad as it is, and that money then can get reinvested.
I think that's the reality, isn't it, with Maka and Wintle? If someone comes in with 5 million for Maka and maybe 1.5 to 2 million for Wintle, I don't know if that money's realistic.
We're not going to get that for Wintle.
I don't think it is, but I think that's the kind. With 2 years on a contract, 600 grand.
Yeah.
Per year, that's what you kind of hope to get, right? 1 to 2 million pounds. Yeah. If we can sell those two players on an aggregate of 6.5 to 7 million pounds, then hopefully that stalls the need to sell someone like Colwell. And I think that's probably why they're prioritizing selling those two players ahead of anybody else. Because if we keep Colwell for another year, that could be the difference between mid-table and 6th. It could be the difference between 6th and 3rd. Whatever it may be. He's that kind of player. Whereas Wintle isn't that difference.
It's a case, I think, if Colwell goes on, probably now you're not going to get more than 6 mil from you, really, 6-7 million. But one good season, that's 6-7 million. Look at Philogene, one good year with Hull, and he's gone back to Villa for 13 million. But I think they had offers closer to 20. It's just because Villa had a buyback clause, they got him for that.
Yeah, Villa had whatever the highest bid was, they could match it and take him back.
Yeah, but there's tons of variables in that. You're completely right, where the money can be so much more different. We kept Colwell for another year and he really kicks on.
Well, there was a deal. It was I think it was Tommy. Is it Tom Eves at Hull? No, not Tom Eves. Sorry, the centre half at Hull, who was in the same. I think it might be Jacob Greaves or something like that. It was him and Philogene. They were both linked with moves for like £26 million between them. It's like that's mental money for the Championship. Like one's a centre half and one's had one good year at Hull, and it's like £26 million. So there's money to be spent. It's just we're never the club who are going to get that money because we're crap at selling players. We sold Aaron Ramsey for £5 million with no sell-on clause, with no kind of any additional fees. That's how bad we are. That still is.
But we got him now. It's fine, Ben.
Yeah, we got him back. It's fine. I am over it. Let's say a little look back on pre-season so far. Obviously, we've had 3 games: Kidderminster, Penybont, and Kortrijk. Who I say Kortrijk, but on the commentary it was Kortrijk. So I don't know if I'm wrong or right. Lost to Kidderminster, beat Penybont handsomely, beat Kortrijk 3-1. Ben, you've watched a lot of the pre-season games. Obviously, we've already talked about Capacchio standing out against Penybont. Who else has caught your eye in pre-season so far?
It's not so much like individual players. I still think like you can still see they're very raw and still sort of getting up to speed. It's more the tactical differences for me that have really stood out. That people, again, like at the start of last year, we spoke about players getting in the box more. And that sort of died out sort of midpoint of the season. But we're definitely filling that box more on the attack, sort of looking for more players to get goals.
We seem to be higher up the pitch, don't we?
Yeah.
We seem to be a lot higher up the pitch.
Yeah, and that's the one thing probably more than anything that stood out. Again, the youngsters have probably had been the bright point. I think Joel Colwell against Penybont, when he played, looked brilliant. Like, looked like the out-and-out 8, like the potential to be that number 8 that like we've been crying out for a long time. Which is another thing that sort of makes me think, oh, God, a year out on loan, really sort of get your feet, play at a decent level, he'll come good. Yeah, they're the main ones for me, but it is just more the style. There's clearly an attempt by Bullet to be, he's listened to the criticisms, he's getting players and he wants. I think he is looking to be a bit more attractive with the football. Like, it's never going to be tiki-taka. It's never going to be 10 million passes under Bullet before we score. But I think he's looking to be a bit more attacking, a bit more proactive, sort of a bit more forward thinking in his football this year.
And Tom, in the Ryan March derby, quite a few youngsters got on the score sheet. Isaac Davis has got a couple so far in pre-season. We've seen Calum Robertson get goals. It's encouraging, isn't it? The goals seem to be coming from 4 or 5 different sources. Obviously, we don't have an out-and-out striker at the moment, but that feels very Cardiff City, doesn't it? We like players to pitch in with goals. If we can get 5 or 6 players pitching in with 7 or 8 goals this season, that's going to be a big change, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, like you put on Twitter, against a European caliber team in Penybont.
Exactly.
Not to be sniffed at. But I watched that as well. I got up 4:45 to watch them play Penybont and then had a real word with myself. Like, this is not sustainable. But, yeah, no, it's good to see the youngsters get on the score sheet because teams like Penybont are, I know it's pre-season, they're not the easiest to play against sometimes. You look at like cup games against lower league teams, the way they set up and breaking them down, it's tough. And I know they're really in their pre-season as well. But, you know, we lost to Kidderminster like a week before. So even though it's against Penybont, it's good to see you scoring goals, building confidence, because it doesn't matter who you're playing. If you're scoring goals, it does help. So I think games like that are important. And to see some of those names on the score sheet is promising going into what are going to be tougher tests now out in Austria. I think, yeah, it's good to see us playing higher up the field against the likes of Kidderminster, Kortrijk and Penybont. But will we do the same against, you know, giant teams like Mamelodi Sundowns? That's going to be the real test, isn't it?
Such a good pre-season fixture, that.
Oh, it's so nice, isn't it?
So happy with that. That's proper Football Manager sort of having a look around. Big on that.
The only player I know who ever played for Mamelodi Sundowns was Matt Booth, who is a 6'6" centre-half who played for the South African national team. He was a giant of a bloke. He started his career and ended his career, or played later in his career at Mamelodi Sundowns. So excited to play them. We'll come to the couple of the preseason games out in Austria now, but first we'll talk about the kit, get to Twitter, and then we'll round off with those games. Ben, the kits, home kit, I think is a modern classic. Away kit, a split opinion, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's fine. It's not a classic. It's not amazing, but it's fine. I'm a bit disappointed. I've sort of looked at a few other kits that I still think we've done. I was at Porto Stadium last week. We've done better than them from our kits, both home and away. Much better than them. There's a stinking. But there's a few other New Balance clubs that have got much better kits, but it's fine. It's not one you're going to look back on and think it's a classic, but we've got the home kit. The home kit is the one for me. It looks beautiful on the pitch. All about it.
Tom, is the away kit a kit that's going to look better on the players than it ever will on the fans? Because it's quite sleek. It's got the nice collar. A fat fan isn't going to look great in it, is it? But the players might.
I'd love to see a kit that looks better on a fat man than a player.
They should design the kits with the fat fan in mind, frankly.
Didn't Man United do that? And that's when Ferguson had to get it changed at half time.
No, that was a bad colour. Bad colour. Go on, Tom.
I think the away kit's nice, to be honest. I think we just love a moan, don't we? And I'm very much in the camp of I don't care anymore because it's not red. It's like the home kit's got a massive bluebird on it, and the away kit is quite nice, and we haven't had to protest because of it. So I'm absolutely fine with the kits that we've got, really. And if you don't like it, don't buy it. It's that simple, really. But people just love to shout about stuff on Twitter. It's not horrendous, is it? It's not like it's made of baked beans or something. That would really split it. Actually, I would buy that as soon as I've said that out loud. But, I quite like it. And yeah, that's why
Tour Sports are currently going, oh, hang on, baked bean kit.
We'll talk more about the kit during the Twitter questions. So let's get to the Twitter questions now. Twitter.com/VFT Ninian. We had a few comments on this one. Benefactor McGuinness, sell for up to 5 million or keep at all costs. I think we've talked about that already. Benefactor also said, who's the striker we're getting in, lads? Ben, is there an ideal striker you'd like to sign? Can't be Kiefer Moore now. That saga is over.
I'm so glad that's over. I don't mind. It's just glad that I don't have to deal with people on Twitter. And this isn't shade at Henry. It's shade at everyone that claims to be there in the know. Just fucking going on about it. I don't care. I just don't mind who we get in. Just get someone in. The scouts know better than me. I'm happy with who they go for. I just don't want to hear any more about Kiefer Moore ever signing for Cardiff City again.
Tom, the one player I missed earlier in the room is Tyrese Campbell. He's been linked from Stoke. Would you be happy with Tyrese Campbell?
I take it. It's not one that massively excites me, but I think, again, it's someone with a lot of experience who'd slot into that squad. So, yeah, I wouldn't be on the edge of my seat with something like that, but I think it's a good one to add to the squad for sure.
He just doesn't scream me as a goal scorer, like someone's going to get 15 goals, though, is he? That's what we need.
I don't worry about most of our signings, I think. Over the last few seasons, we haven't really got that goal scorer. I'm still clutching to this is the Calum Robinson year. I don't know what it is. I've just got a good feeling about it over the last week.
Well, the next question's for you then. George L. CCFC, what part has Robinson got to play this year? Promising in pre-season so far. Hope Bullet has given him a kick up the arse he needed. I'm going to make a disclaimer now on Calum Robinson before I hand over to you, Tom. I did the 4-4-2 season preview this year, and the question was, if I wrote it, you have to write it over a month before. It was over a month ago, so it was well before anything had happened of any note. And I wrote, they always ask the question, what player would you drive to his next club? And I just read Calum Robinson. There's a good player in there, but it just hasn't worked out in the way we wanted. Obviously, I would change that answer now to Marlon Romeo because he's a cock, but I didn't know that at the time. So I'd like to apologise. No, and I don't want to because the guy doesn't deserve any airtime. I want to get that in now as a disclaimer because I don't want to be, I had to write it 6 weeks ago, basically. So I'm just saying that now. Tom, is it Calum Robinson's year?
Yeah. I don't know why. There's just something that I've got a feeling he's going to kick on this season. Getting bad influences like Romeo and clearly Ryan Wintle, who's causing all problems at Cardiff City, out of the way. It's time for Robinson to shine. So I think it's going to be his year for sure.
I walked past him the other day. He was by Cardiff Central Station and he smelled fantastic. So if that's anything to go by, he's going to have a great year.
Stop sniffing our players, Ben. This is why we're not allowed in the club.
I couldn't help it. He just walked past me and I was like, wow, he smells great. Mikey CCFC asks if and when we sign another centre midfielder, how will we fit Rambo, Ruben Colwill, Joel Colwill, Riles, Wintle, King, Turnbull, Siopis, and the new midfielder into 2-3 positions? I can see Wintle, Joel Colwill and King all leaving the summer. Kind of covered that off already. DJ in it. Who will get more appearances this season? Die Hunt or Aaron Ramsey? Ben?
Ramsey, because he signed on. Die Hunt's not a registered player, and we'd received bonus deductions. True, I could be wrong. He could be that mystery third signing.
Mystery midfielder.
That'd be a turn, wouldn't it?
Perry's fan account. Which of our youngsters, not including certified first team players like Ruben Colwill and Isaac Davis, do you expect to make the breakthrough this season? Tom,
I'd like it to be Capaccio after seeing Wine for like 40
you can
minutes.
say that. You can say that.
I've said it, and
Yeah.
I will stick. I will stick by it.
Ben?
I think it's about time we have a young player like just come through out of nowhere and just kick on in the squad. You see other clubs do it, and it feels like we haven't had that. So sorry, yeah, over to Ben. Sorry.
I think Eli King. I think he's just ready, isn't he? It's been such a long build up. Let's just make it happen now.
I was going to say Eli King, or I fancy Conte to really cement his place in the squad. I know Conte kind of came through at the end of last season, but I really fancy him to cement his place in the team. None of us mentioned Kean Ashford there.
I was just about to say he's sort of like he was second on my list, but he just looks too young. He's got the most baby face of any player I've ever seen. Any picture of him, I think like he should be playing under 13. Surely, Google him. He is the youngest looking. I think is he 18?
I'm gonna have to look it up now. Yeah, he does look young. He's 19.
It's proper baby face on him. I'm literally like, should not be playing men's football, but he's a really, really good player.
Where are you? Oliver Rees, would you take a similar place finish to last season, chuck in a few derby wins too, or would you be disappointed not to get the playoffs? Asked a few mates and got mixed opinions. Ben, it feels like we need to kick on a little bit, don't we? Otherwise, Bullett's going to be in for it.
Yeah, I think you've got to be sort of looking to get playoffs this year. That's what I'm expecting from this squad. I think that's what the club are expecting themselves. That's the standards we're looking at. Is the league's a lot more open this year. I don't think it's going to be an out and out massive runaway winner. That I was bored last night, trying to work out league positions because I'm a loser. And yeah, it's you sort of think Leeds are probably going to be up there. Sheffield United might be up there. Burnley. Outside of that, it feels very, very open. It's sort of you could put a team you could predict a team to finish 5th, and they could finish 21st. It feels like it's going to be one of those leagues again this year.
The only team I can see really doing anything is Leeds. I think
I think Sheffield United will. I
still don't know because I don't know how good Wilder is still because of what he did at Watford last time. That's my only question mark over Sheffield United. And they've had to sell a few players. There's talk that Gus Hamer's going to go. They've sold Jayden Bogle. I know they've signed quite well, but I think they still have to make some sacrifices somewhere. Leeds have got rid of Glenn Kamara for some money. They've obviously got rid of Archie Gray for some money, which I think has paid to a lot of their financial worries this summer because they got about 40 million for Archie Gray. They needed about 60 million to cover off what they needed to. They've just signed Jayden Bogle. And I think if they can carry on any sort of form from last year into this season, they should really be in the top 2. But that's the only team I have any confidence over. Barry Jones says the kit's good or bad once again. City not in touch with its fans. Tom, I have this kind of... That comment to me speaks to the black and yellow away kit. That's what people wanted. That's what people expected. Do you think black and yellow is a traditional away kit for us?
It turns a new generation. I think this is the problem, right? We hear from when people get vocal about it. It's one generation of fan who's on one certain social media platform, and that's it. I'm going to say we're not touch with the fans. We've got a giant bluebird on the home kit. We've tried to. I know it might be a little bit of marketing spiel, but we're on about like. In touch with like the mining community and stuff, with the away kit. The club are going to get shot down for a lot of things if it's not like near perfect. I think it's the right direction. I think they've done a decent job. To be fair, yeah, it could have been slightly better, but the black and yellow thing, I get it, but I'm not that arsed. I'm really not that arsed about it.
And here's one for you, Ben. Boosh Taliesin, what's your go-to ice lolly this summer?
Oh, I like a Calippo. Big fan of that. I'm more of a ice cream than ice lolly, to be honest.
What's your go-to ice cream then?
Good question. Flake night though. If you got in the freezer one, when you knock it out from the ice cream man, it's the flake cone ones you get from like Lidl. Banging.
Tom, now you're in Australia. What kind of ice cream do they have over there? Is it winter?
Golden Gate time.
The Golden Gate time. Yeah, that was the one that immediately screaming in my head. But they call them icy poles, which I refuse to do.
Icy poles.
Oh, don't start it, mad bunch. Like chatting off my shoulder, man. I'm not changing the way I speak. They call flip-flop thongs and shit like that. So, but I'm a twister or a Solero man normally.
I love a Solero. Solero's a class. Richard Endicott, this one's for both of you. How long will it be before the Jacks start getting on Bellamy's back, especially if Wales lose the first couple? Tom, what do you think is going to happen there?
What? We're Wales pod now, are we? I
Yeah.
didn't realise it. Yeah. Immediately. I've got a sneaky feeling that Bellamy's going to do an absolutely fantastic job at Wales. So I don't think they'll get an opportunity to get on his back.
Ben, do you think the same?
I don't think it's going to. I think it's no matter what, it's going to be a certain type of Swansea fan that's going to get on Bellamy's back no matter what. And they're going to be the ones that don't go to Wales games anyway. They're not going to be involved. They're just doing it because they pick club over country anyway. It's just one of those things. He's going to get criticism for it no matter what he does by a certain amount, normally on Twitter and Facebook. And if anyone's not going to be asked, it is Craig Bellamy, let's be honest.
Yeah, the man doesn't care. Noah Nissian asks, if you had to choose between having Michael Fabricant's hair or Matt Hancock's awkwardness, which would you choose? Ben? I know what Tom would choose.
I know which one Tom's already. I know which one Tom's already got. So,
bastards.
Go on, Ben.
I'd have to go for that hair, but can I dye it black? So then I sort of bring back the emo 2005 look.
You get the hair. You can do what you want with it.
I'm going with that then. Then I'm bringing it back, and I'm joining the Black Parade.
Tom,
I think I look a bit like Matt Hancock in weird light.
I think you do as well. I was going to say.
Yeah, I just glanced at the camera now and. Yeah, it
looked awkward, and then
fuck. Yeah, it's like fuck. Got a bit of Hancock about me. I would look mad with Fabricant's hair. I'd quite like.
Also, I think I would quite like to see you just turn up one day with Fabricant's hair and not mention it. Like,
oh yeah,
arrive,
like the Alan Shearer, the Alan
Shearer thing. Have we got a plan for that? Tom, there's something different about you. Oh yeah, I had a shave. I got a new hoodie. He also asked, is Horvath now our number one, or do you think this is being decided in pre-season? I think Horvath is our number one, and the reason I think so is because he has really long arms, and I think there's no accounting for that. There's a video of them walking in to at pre-season, walking into their accommodation, and his arms are almost at his knees. It's ridiculous how long his arms are, which is impressive. Sam Parry says, how much would you take for Mark McGuinness from pre-season, and can you see any tactical changes in our playing style? Kind of cover that off already. Aidan Jones, yes, we need a pod. Get it done, lads. Sam Hardwell sent us a gif of Jimmy Fallon looking very happy. And the final question, Tom, from Connor Gill, are we predicting another plucky eighth?
Can't say yet.
All right.
I'll keep it for the prediction pod. No spoilers here.
We'll keep it for the prediction pod, where we might have a special guest on the prediction pod. I will let you know more about that when it's sorted. Right, moving on to...
You're going to let us know, the people that are also...
I'll tell you afterwards. Moving on to the final couple of pre-season games. Obviously, we're out in Austria. The tour is in full effect. Games coming up against Hamburg. Hello, Robert Glatzel. Mamelodi Sundowns from South Africa, and Hertha Berlin. Ben, what do you expect to see from these next couple of games?
9 points. I know there's no points at stake, but I want 9 points. If we don't get those 9 points somewhere, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Are you just going to, if we win the games, are you going to give us points? Is this the Ben Price merit division?
Yeah, so exactly what I'm going to do. It's going to be on Twitter. It's going to be on Twitter, so it's going to be official. But nice. A win is 3 points. A draw is 2 points, just to be different.
What's a loss?
A point. Look, it's pre-season. It doesn't matter that much. I think you're getting a bit silly now, Ben. But just calm it down, yeah.
All right, sorry about that. Tom, will we start to see our kind of early season starting 11 take shape over the next few games? Do you think?
No, I don't think so, because we've got like
Thanks
3 games in succession, and we've still got games against like Bristol and Reading and stuff coming up. I think it's those games we will start to see it a little bit more, take shape. I think you'll just see a lot of chopping and changing here. But no, I'm excited to see how we perform against teams like this, because you don't play these teams very often. It does just look exciting. Like I remember, like when growing up and you're playing the likes of Ajax, Lazio, Racing Santander, and plays. It stays in your head. So like it's quite cool to see us like playing like teams like Hertha Berlin and stuff. So I'm really excited to see what happens.
Predictions.
I'm very jealous. So I'm just very jealous of people out of Austria right now. Sort of wake up hours before they play Hamburg. You get to see Robert Glatzel up close again. Beautiful stuff.
I really did want to go, but I just couldn't make it work.
It's just it looks like a good trip. Apparently, though, where they're staying, nothing's open past 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I did see that on Twitter as well.
But no.
Ben, are we going to get 9 points then?
Yeah, I think so. I think the big test is. I think the hardest game is going to be today, because I don't know if we mentioned, but we're recording just before we play Hamburg. So, yeah, if we come out of that, I think we'll take on 9 points.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, that's it. First episode in the bag. Really good one, I think. Probably up there with the best so far this season. 1 of 1. Doing good stuff. If you like what we do, twitter.com/VFT Ninian. You can follow us on there. Head to viewfromthenin.com. I think that's the website. We've never really used it. It's got all our contactable links on there. If you want to give us money, because we don't do this for money, we do this for the love, kofi.com/VFT Ninian. Drop us off some money there. That will help us fund the pod for the coming season. Ben, what you can do, we've recorded early on a Sunday. You're going to watch the Cardiff game and have a Calippo?
Yeah, I might do. Actually, I know there's some Gregs downstairs, so I might have a bit of that. Yeah.
Tom, almost bedtime for you, isn't it, down under?
Yeah, it's a midnight start, the game for me. So I'm toying with it. I might have the golf on one screen and the preseason friendly on the other, but we'll see.
And I'm just going to go to Sainsbury's to buy my food for the week. So it'll be a lovely day for us all. Tom, Ben, thanks for joining us. We'll be back with our season preview pod over the coming weeks. Keep in touch with us on Twitter, twitter.com/VFT Ninian, and we'll see you later.